Born to run, baby. Born to run. Welcome to the De Leon.
Well, hello everyone. This is Rob with the De Leon Hobby Garage, and today I would like to talk about a thing called procrastination. And so the question for you is, have you ever had something that you've been putting off and putting off and putting off and just didn't want to get to it, so you just kind of left it in the back burner? Well, that's what I've been doing for the longest time. So even though we're not in the hobby garage right now, I did spend the weekend working in there. And what I had to do was remove a very, very large shelving unit that was built by the previous owner. So originally when we bought this house, the garage had a large shelving unit that was built into the back of the garage, and it probably covered about 10 feet wide by maybe about 3 or 4 feet deep. I felt that that shelving unit would have to come out in order to get my slot car track in there. And so as I've been moving everything back and forth from one house to another and filling up that garage, that shelving unit apparently has been in the way the entire time. So I've been putting off the removal of the shelving unit because I've been putting stuff onto the shelving unit just to basically get it off the floor. And so at some point I would have to pull everything off the shelving unit and then take the shelving unit apart. The problem is, and I'm going to show you a video right now of what I've had to deal with, is that when they built it, they buried all of the screws about an 1/8 inch below the surface of the wood. And not only that, they stripped every single screw. So as you can imagine, probably we're talking 40 big long screws about this long. Every single screw was stripped. Not only was it buried, they coated the entire shelf with a very thick coat of gloss white paint. So some of the screws were buried. You couldn't even see where they were at. So eventually I felt, okay, we just got to go ahead and take care of this. And so over the course of 2 days, we were climbing on the shelf and trying to get these screws drilled out. Now you say, why didn't I just demo this thing and just demolish it like most? Well, because I have all of my hobby stuff in there and I didn't want all that stuff falling off onto my hobbies. So anyway, let me show you the video.
So first off, I'm going to say I'm not a construction guy. So working on this kind of project is not really my forte. I was able to drill most of the screws out, and the ones I couldn't get to in the very far back that were stripped beyond repair, I just used a crowbar. My original intent was to try not to damage the wood so I can reuse it and rebuild this entire shelf, but make it freestanding this time and put it into another garage unit. I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel at this point. The hardest part about this project was trying to work in close confines. There's basically no room to work in here, and I didn't want to have to pull everything back out of the garage. I was able to minimize the damage to the wall, so just a little bit of sanding and spackling and we should be good to go. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that slot car collection for those of you who've never seen it. These are all 1/32 scale slot cars built by different manufacturers, and they run on my 1/24 scale Carrera slot car track. The top level here are most of my NASCAR stuff, and so most of these are 90s NASCARs. And then we move on to the second row, and some of these are my rally cars. I'd have to say my favorite probably is the Renault Turbo 5 and the Lancia Stratos. The next shelf here is kind of a mishmash. We've got a couple of Lolas, a Mini, a couple of Alfa Romeos, some Porsches, a BMW, and a Chaparral. And then here we go with the Mustangs. We've got a couple of different Mustang fastbacks. The blue one actually is an Aston Martin, a couple of Lamborghinis behind that. Here we have a Corvette, some Porsches, Capri, go-karts, and some Volkswagens. And then underneath that, we have a continuation of the Porsches, some Volkswagens, and a couple of Corvettes. On the bottom here, we've got some Mopar, Camaros, and Mustangs. I've got to still find a place to put those, so my organization is not complete yet. This next display case features pretty much Porsches on the entire top shelf. And again, more Porsche. And under that, we've got a couple of different cars. We've got some Corvettes to the back. We've got a Mercedes, more Porsches, a Mazda, Mosler, and a Lancia. And then here we have some Vipers and just some miscellaneous cars. And then here's most of the Ferraris, with a lone Pantera parked all the way in the very back corner. Finishing out with just kind of some odds and ends, we've got an IROC blue Camaro, we've got a Mercedes, a few DTM cars, and a McLaren. The top of this next case features my Formula One, and then we have some of my LMP cars. Underneath that shelf, we've got everything from Porsches to Lamborghinis, a Ferrari, DTM cars, a couple of Japanese cars, and then here's some of my vintage American stuff. We've got a bunch of Cobras and GT40s, and then finally we've got some of the Can-Am collection. And then at the bottom of that, pretty much Volkswagens. I was a Volkswagen collector since I was about 18. I still have 3 of them in my vintage collection of real cars. Under the Volkswagens, just kind of a bunch of odds and ends. I actually haven't categorized these yet, but you can see we've got some movie cars in there, Porsches, Jaguars. So this is just a quick little overview of my slot car collection. Eventually when the track arrives, we can do some racing and we'll get more in depth. Well, that's about all for today. Next weekend, I'll be moving everything back out of the garage, painting the wall, and then moving the track in, hopefully if I get a chance to bring it up. Well, thanks for watching, and if you like this kind of content, please click like and subscribe.